All right. Shalom, shalom, Sister Deborah, prophetess in the wilderness. And you know what? That's all right with me. Coming again on this Deborah platform with another message. I will say this is a lovely, lovely afternoon in which the Most High, Ahaya has made. And I, Sister Deborah, shall and that I will rest therein. Just coming with a little something. Sometimes I can be talking so fast. Sometimes I say words that I should not and end up coming backtracking it and getting it right. But that's because I'm talking too fast and not slowing it down. And I need to slow it down. The topic of this message is part 2 of the warning that brings down fire. This is the part 2 of that warning that brings down fire. I want to cover that because I was in the car when I made that video. So I want to kind of cover it with a part 2. I want to let you know that I am planning on going live today at 7 p.m. To cover a very anointed and appointed message for those that are in spirit and truth. If you're not in spirit and truth, please don't come to the page. It's not for you. But it is an awesome message. It's going to bring much light. It's going to make things a little brighter. And come join me, 7 p.m. Central Time. So I'm going to start on part 2 of what the warning that brings down fire. And this, if you really pay attention and you follow along with me, you'll see a lot of mystery. You'll see a lot of mystery. Okay. You see that I'm over to my children's house. I had to drop the car here so they can, go out and do what they got to do. Okay. And I wanted you to start with, we're going to start in Genesis. We're going back to Genesis 2, where it was perfect will of the Father can be found. And when you go to Genesis chapter 2 and verses 4, I want to cover that because that is connected to part 1 of the warning bringing a fire down. Okay. The warning brings fire down. And in Genesis chapter 2, verse 24, I like to start there. And 25. But I like to start in Genesis chapter 2 and verse 24 and 25. We're going to start with 24. Therefore shall a man leave his father and his mother. And I want you to stop right there. There is a word in that sentence that needs to be wrote out so you can put it on the side of you. And it is a man leave. You notice he leave. He leaves something. What is that? Mother and father. Mother and father is by natural bloodline. Mother and father. This is where he was birthed from. And mother and his father. And then as it said, it continued and it says, and shall cleave. Look at the word cleave. Notice cleave is letting you know that this man is going to transition, leaving one and cleaving unto his wife. That means he's going to leave the birth, mother and father, and cleave to his wife. Okay. I always wondered about that because I always question it. It seems like it should have been the opposite way around, being so the wife is the weaker link. But it also shows you that the way that they took it out of the perfect will. They took it out of the perfect will and made it into their own will. And you're going to understand it as I go on. This is showing you how and why he said if they missed it in Genesis chapter 1 and chapter 2, they missed this whole book. I know they did. When they missed the power, I knew they did. When they missed Christ, I knew they did. They missed the whole book. Now, what he's saying here, a man is going to leave what he was born into, and he's going to go somewhere else. And that place that he goes to, he's going to have to cleave to it. Now, how would that sound if he say a man is to leave his birth parents and cleave to this wife, that wife, this wife, this wife? This shows you that this is not the perfect will of the Father, that man steps into many wives. Okay? This came after the sin. So therefore, many wives came along with the sin that men had stepped into and got involved in. Because even back then, they was marrying their relative, their blood relative, even back then. So I'm just showing you, but in Genesis chapter 1 and chapter 2, there you see the Father had laid his perfect will, the foundation of his perfect will down. And we took it come the third chapter, and when Adam and Eve went into the garden and chose Satan over life and any other tree, then therefore here it is. Everything came out of the perfect will and stepped into the unperfect will. And this is why you see men running around here saying they can have many lusts fulfilled, many desire of their flesh fulfilled. Get satisfied in their flesh fulfilled. They don't understand that's what they're doing. Because here, if you look, he said, and shall cleave to his wife. As if when he leave his mother, birth mother and father, and what he get from them, he has to go to a woman to get his next, life fulfilled. You see, he's letting you know that he's leaving mother and father, but I created him to go clean to his wife. So when you said leave, it has here, shall a man leave and shall a man cleave unto his wife. Shall a man leave and shall a man cleave to his wife. He's sending power there, y'all. He's letting you know this is my perfect will. Okay. As you go on, he said, and they shall be one flesh. One flesh. And what he means by that, they become one flesh coming before the throne of Yah in one spirit. In the spirit of oneness. Okay? And that's why he said, if when a man findeth a wife, so it goes back to let you know he has to look, not lust. Okay? But look, he has to seek. What these men today are doing, preparing men to go into virgins because they're young, silly, and don't know nothing. They have to do everything they tell them. But here, the Father is saying, even though it shows you how Eve was entertaining the serpent, while Adam was right there present with her. It's impossible for her to have entertained Satan without Adam being present. You see, it says that he was there. So what it was, she might have bought into the conversation more so with Satan than Adam. But the both of them were entertaining the tree of knowledge of good and evil. They were both in the presence of it. See, they won't teach y'all that. They won't teach y'all that because they got to make man look a way that a higher did not create them to be. Okay? Because that's not the perfect will of the Father in the way they have created man to be today. And that's the reason why they have the hate, the perpetual hate for women today. And that's why a higher also allowed the female entity of homosexual to rest in a lot of them. And even though they sit and they have many wives and have wives to cover up their desire for other men. And this is a setup so that you won't know what they're desiring inside. But that's what they're doing. They're having more pleasure in the midst of being around each other than they do around women. And how did that get erased? When men teaches men to belittle her to the point where she's nothing but dirt on the ground. And that's what they practice and to teach the men so they can be out of the Father's order. Now, let me show you what I'm talking about. In verse 24, Genesis chapter 2 and verse 24, this is his perfect will. Therefore shall a man leave his mother and his father. He shall. It ain't saying he might. It ain't saying he will. It says he shall leave his mother and his father, and he got to leave from that house and find his wife and cleave to her, as if she has something to that he needs to invest in, and she needs to invest in him. Okay, so this is the will of the Father, what you call the perfect will. And he said, and they shall be one in the flesh. Okay, because one in the flesh mean they would come together and be united in the flesh, even in birthing a child, bring forth that child in one. So what he's saying is we missed it because we missed the part that's spiritual in that message, because they shall become one flesh. But what has happened is they are not just the one flesh, they are one spirit. Now let me take you all there where he talks about, and I didn't get that verse, where he talks about this again. We're going to cover it. Where he speaks of this is a mystery. I know many of you all have read that, where Ahia say a man shall leave his mother and his father and cleave to his wife. This too is a mystery. The mystery is the will of the Father, perfect will, not only wanted them to be one in the flesh, but that they would become one in the spirit. Okay? And that one spirit is the spirit in which the Yeshua and the Father is in, and everybody that's going to be ushered in through Yeshua HaMashiach, we're all going to be considered one. So this is the Father's whole way of orchestrating everything when he said a man is to leave and a man is to cleave. A man is to leave and a man is to cleave. And he didn't set it up where he could cleave to more than just that one to become one. So he's saying that when I look and I behold this man, Deborah, I don't see him with many wives. I only see him from this level of my perfection. My perfect will is with one, because that's my perfect will. That's how I designed it. Yes, they went in and they designed in all kind of things their way, and it's totally off the chain today. And they're willing to walk therein their perfect will. It's not the Father's perfect will. It's their flesh perfect will. And it's out of the order of the Father's will. That's why Yeshua came back along and he said, and Yeshua came along and he said that, to the disciples. Let's go there. Matthew's 19. Matthew's 19 and 5. Matthew's 19 and verse 5. And it reads, Matthew's 19 and verse 5. Okay? And it reads, let's go to verse 4. 19, Matthew's 19 verse 4. And he answered and said unto them, Yeshua, have ye not read? What Yeshua is saying, have ye not read. And then where did he take him? That which he made them. Now, if you have your Bible, look at the word them. You see that word them, T-H-E-M? It's slanted. It's not made like all the other words. It's slanted because that's how Ahia put his signature, to get you to focus on that word alone. Okay? Just let that be one of the words you focus on it. It is in him, in Ahia, it is them, not him. Even though he has stepped over the boundary of the perfect will and have went into his own fleshly will, Ahia still calling it's his perfect will that they are out of order of. It's still the Father's will. No matter what they do today, it still is out of the perfect will. That means that what they're doing does not pleases the Father, because the things that pleases the Father falls in the perfect will. Not the things that people do following Satan and the flesh of man. Only the things they do in the perfect will of the Father is righteous. Anything outside of that, that is the flesh will. Now here in Matthew 19 and verse 4, he said, and he answered and said unto them, have ye not read? And I would say that today to the men and women today. Have you not read? And I'm speaking of Genesis 1 and Genesis 2. Have you not read? Because that was the perfect will. That's the only time you're going to see the perfect will. And if we don't understand Genesis 1 and Genesis 2, you don't understand none of this book. Because you have to respect the perfect will. Okay, now watch this here. And it says, have ye not read that he which made them. He's not saying that he that made him. He said he that made them at the beginning made them males and females. Male and female. Now you see that? Yeshua had to step into them because he wants them to understand my Father's perfect will is not the way you all are willing it today. And that's way back in Matthew's. So if you think for 1 minute today it's going according to the Father's perfect will, the righteous way, no, it's not. So these men can sell y'all a bunch of trash out of their rectum all day long, and you all are going to eat it up. Because that's what they're selling you all. Crap out of their rectum, and you all are eating it up. None of it is righteous. And you all can't even digest it because, or you all can't, not digest it, you all can't even take of spirit and truth and the light because you've ate so much of their rectum mess on your plate to where you can't see a decent meal for your spirit because you can't, you wouldn't even digest it. You got to digest the sin and the lust and the pleasure and the will of the flesh of man and the knowledge of the flesh of man and the wisdom of the flesh of the man and the understanding of the flesh of man versus what is spirit and truth. Now, you notice here the word them is slant. That's when you see the signature of the Father. Okay, at the beginning made them male and female. He's letting them know the way y'all talking to me, y'all have taken everything out of the order of male and female. Them. You all have took Ahia's word out of the order of righteous. And you making it him. When he said them, that's what he's telling you right here. Look at it, you guys. Just look at it. Matthew 19 and verse 4. You see how they got, now you see where we are at today, where they have placed, even back in Genesis, how they placed women as crop animals and selling them to other men. That's how it ended the world. When the sons of Yah saw what the men and the daughters were doing, and they decided to also do unlike what they behold. And they took daughters like they saw man, the flesh of man doing. You see? And Ahia said, I'm going to cut this off right now. Now just watch this here. When he cut it off, it didn't mean anything. They turned back and rebooted right back up. And here we are today. Okay? So, and he says, I want you all to circle and highlight your Bible, Matthew 19 and verse 4, because that's a power punch for you all, where he never intended it to be men. Notice he said that they are to rule, but rule don't mean that change my architect or my order of them into only him. No, that's not what he was talking about when he said you shall rule over her. That's not what he meant. But the mindset of the flesh of wicked take rule, and look what they do to it right now today. Look how they eat it up. And look how they take of it. They take of it through wicked and evil, and they don't see it falling under any righteous. They don't see it anointed and appointed. But Yeshua told them, you don't read. Have you not read? In the beginning, it was them, male and female. So what are y'all talking about? Now watch this. He was saying that because these men came to him saying, can we give a written decree? Because Moses said that we can. He was telling him that, wait a minute, you're telling me that you want to get a written decree from a woman and leave her. You want a piece of paper that you can sign and leave her. Ahia didn't made it for you. He made it for them. This is supposed to be something that is detached as them, male and female. You all have made it only him. And that's how this one nappy-headed man, you can tell somebody done bust him in his head more than once. You can tell his name is Charles Dowles. You can tell that he done taught them guys so wrong that the Father have let them go all the way out in the deep, and they gonna drown right out there in the deep. Okay? Because they don't see nothing in spirit and truth. They don't see nothing spirit and truth, because he don't have spirit and truth to give them. Okay? And he said in verse 5, and said, for this cause shall man leave a father and mother and cleave to his wife. So he's letting you know you're going to leave your birth. Those that birthed you brought you forth. But I want you to cleave to something that's very important. He that find a wife, find it a good thing. Why? Because this is the will, the perfect will of the Father. He didn't say he that find it wise. That is not the will of the Father. That is the desire and the pleasure and the lust of man. Okay? And because they have failed under the sin of Adam and Eve, that's why they make it right today. Because they looked in here and they saw they did it right. But notice, go back to every one of those women and the children and look how they conduct themselves back then. They weren't serving your most high or higher. Now one of them. David wise wasn't serving y'all. Abraham wise wasn't serving y'all. And guess what? Jacob wives wasn't serving y'all. You see? They didn't put Ahia first. They didn't have no really dealings in that serving Ahia. Why? Because they were only sex tools for man. Because man had switched the perfect will out of them and made it about him. His lust, his pleasure. They even said man was created for, woman was created for man and not man for woman. And Ahia said, that's a lie. Deborah, I created everything for me. I did not create a woman for he. I didn't create him for her. Both was created for me and my purpose. But that shows you how they have gotten in here and they have smeared a whole bunch of things. And a lot of people might say, yeah, the Catholics did that. No. Your wicked heart. Your forefathers did that. Okay. So here he said, and they should cleave to his wife, and they shall be two shall be one flesh. Now let's watch this here. In verse 6 said, wherefore they are no more two, but one flesh. What therefore Ahia has joined together, let not man put us under. And what he means by that, listen to what I'm saying, y'all. One flesh. When a man find a wife, he find it a good thing. And he cleaves to her, they become one flesh. And then when that one flesh have cleaved together, They're saying here, wherefore they are no more two, but one flesh. When you follow that order that was in Genesis chapter 2, verse 24, he's saying, what therefore a higher have joined together. Why? It's joined if it's together like the perfect will of Yah back in Genesis chapter 2 and verse 24. That's the joining together for that Yah has joined together. A higher will not honor, a higher will not honor marriages that man has joined himself to. Okay? When man has respect to honor, that Father said a man leaves his wife, his mother, and his father. Meaning so, men are not to even leave their household where their mother and father is residing until he find a wife. You see? Because all that in between time, he can find any and everything, and so much things come upon him that he wasn't taught with his mother and his father. So that's why he said you stay with your mother and your father, and you leave your mother and father and cling to your wife. So once you find your wife, you go now take on to her, cleave to her, and y'all become one. If you follow that, it will be like Ahia says, what therefore Ahia has joined together, let no man put us under. That means man can't divide the marriage the way the Father has created it. So a lot of the marriages today, 99 trillion, are flesh marriages that man has put together. It is not like the perfect will of the Father back in Genesis chapter 1, okay, and chapter 2 and verse 24. So that's the order that they are out of. So they totally out of order if they got more than one wife. See, Ahia is not joining that together. See, even if Ahia is not joining that together, then it is not spiritual and it's not righteous. It is unrighteous. It's resting in the tree of knowledge of good and evil, choosing to do evil knowingly because it's not the order, like Yeshua said. Have you not read? This is verse 4, Matthew 19 and verse 4. Have you not read that he which made them? See, he's letting them know, y'all wrong, because he made them, not him. Y'all are wrong. Trying to get y'all to see, you missed Genesis chapter 1. Y'all need to go back to Genesis chapter 1. Y'all messed up, because it wasn't about you, man. It was about them, y'all. And y'all turned around and because of his righteous will, you all followed what Adam and Eve did. Y'all went to the tree and entertained Satan's way of doing it. And now you have done it. Your forefathers have done it for so long that you still today trying to mimic what they did out of the unrighteous will. Okay. And trying to live it in this day and calling it righteous. Okay. So I wanted you all to grasp that. And now he was showing me in, what does he say? In verse 25, Genesis chapter 2 and verse 25. And he wanted me to go back to that. And he said, and they were both. See, he's not saying and he. He's saying both because he wants you to know he now see them in his righteous will as one already. That's the way he's going to see you from heaven, you guys. So all these wives and divorcing, going here, he ain't going to see you in that. He going to see sin loaded in you, lust, the desire of your flesh, everything you doing fleshly is what he's seeing. He ain't seeing because your pastor told you can have many wives, you can get you virgins. And furthermore, I want y'all to understand, you got a virgin. A virgin, you have to understand, go to. Everything is two. You can get a virgin in the spirit, or you can get a virgin in the natural. 99.1 trillion billion would run over and get a virgin in the natural. They don't have a good thing. What they got is a good lust for a good minute. And it triggers the mindset that they got something in the flesh. And see, Ahiah is not about the flesh. That's why he said in Genesis chapter 2 and verse 25, Genesis chapter 2 and verse 25, and they both naked, and the man and his wife, and were not ashamed. Ahiah wants you to know that a man being naked and a woman being naked was not meant as what men take it today. So when man is out here trying to chase a woman's virgin, the innocent, that's really what turns them on. The idea, I give you somebody that ain't nobody had or that's innocent. But regardless if they're innocent in the way where you can stick your natural thing, but in the spirit they wicked and evil, what difference does it make? They're not a virgin in the spirit. So they can be a virgin in the flesh to please your flesh. And that's what they're doing. They're chasing after the virgin and the innocent in the flesh. And the fathers say they really don't understand. They're still not innocent in that road either, because of the things that the young women are doing in this day and time. So they are not really getting what they think they are getting. And the father said that his way is the perfect way. When a man findeth a wife, that is a good thing. He didn't say when a man findeth wives. See, polygamy has been out the box. It's the pleasure of a man's flesh. That's it. The men don't even give these women anything or any time. All they give them is a bunch of chaos in the household. And that is wicked and evil, because it's out of the order of the Father. One man to one woman become one in the flesh. So the one in the flesh can become one in the spirit realm. Both of them will come into the spirit in one. You see, people don't even know that, y'all. And that's sad. People do not even know that. That's why he want one and one. So you can come one in the flesh. And after you come one in the flesh, you bring forth children. And you become one in Yeshua HaMashiach and in the Father. Then they all are one. Your household is one. He is not telling you to usher other spirits of other women, because you can't seem to keep your thing in your pan, or you can't seem to understand that the sins and the permissive will of the fathers, you weren't supposed to mimic. That's what Christ came, so you can walk and act and conduct yourself in that manner. But you never reached that destiny, but you reached way back to Torah and back in the old, and picked up all of their sin and out of order according to the perfect will and portraying it today. And that's what all of them are doing. That's why they have not awakened. Okay. Now let's go to Genesis. He said about being naked. It was never to be, and they weren't ashamed, because being a virgin is not something to prove that you haven't had a man, or it doesn't matter. What these young people are doing today, in their mind thoughts and who they are today, they didn't have more men in their spiritual mind than a woman that is 80 years old. The young people, this is sort of nonsense that's going on that these men don't understand. That's what Ahiah say. Let them keep on fulfilling the lust of their flesh. If they